School safety, accountability, quality education, all are big topics in this fall's school board elections. And Van Schoales from A-Plus Colorado is back with us right now. And I know that's powerful to watch that PSA. But as we think about who's running for school board races, how important is it to have, well, maybe first of all, the right demographics to reflect who is in your student body?
Right, absolutely. We know that it matters a great deal who is in front of a classroom, and we know that having teachers that reflect the student population makes a big difference for kids. And we also know that it's important to have school board members that are also reflective of the general population for that particular school district or area.
So what are you seeing, let's say, big districts versus rural districts right now? What's happening within our districts?
Right. Well, we've seen a lot of demographic changes throughout the state, and we've seen that, for instance, in Denver, the numbers have changed pretty dramatically for the last 10 years. An increase in student population, and now, because of what's going on in Denver in terms of housing and other changes, we're seeing the number of low-income kids dropping slowly, and we're finding that those families are moving into the surrounding school districts and other parts of the state. So we're seeing lots of changes, in large part driven by jobs and housing. So
are you saying then that like Denver is becoming more segregated?
No, I'm saying that Denver is quite segregated by schools. There are most kids have experiences going to schools with kids that are similar. So most white kids go to school with other white kids, and most kids of color go to school with other kids of color.
Is that because of school choice? Is that one of the reasons?
So school choice can either help or hurt on school integration. It's driven mostly by housing patterns, and it's also driven by decisions around where the boundaries are set around schools. So
when you say housing patterns, you're talking about affordability.
Affordability, issues. Absolutely, yeah. So there aren't a great deal of neighborhoods in Denver that are integrated in terms of having low income next to higher income
Okay, so
housing.
Then explain then how these numbers, what you're talking about then, how that translates into student achievement.
Yeah, so we know that if kids are going to segregated schools, particularly for low-income kids and for students of color, that they end up getting access to less quality programming in a whole variety of ways, whether or not it's access to college courses, whether or not it's access to more experienced teachers, whether or not it's often access to higher funding. Sometimes the money doesn't follow kids.
Which then goes back to our original conversation that we talk a lot about, is running for school board, correct?
Absolutely. And so the question is, what's going to be done about that? So Denver, for instance, is one of the most segregated school systems in the country. What could school board members do about that in order to address that so that all kids could benefit from...
And is there a way to integrate schools?
There are. You can do a variety of things in terms of setting boundaries. You can provide incentives so that funding follows kids based on their income and other special services. You can also ensure that there are spaces that are retained for low-income kids in high-performing schools. And there are examples of schools that have done that in Colorado.
Districts are doing that?
Yes, some schools have done that and some school districts have done that.
I think we need to talk about that a little bit later on, because we are now out of time. So always a great conversation with you. Thank you so much, Van Schoales, talking about education in Colorado.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate your time. We'll have you back. We'll talk more. Listen, if you ever have a question or a segment idea, you can tweet us at Denver 7 Politics, and you can always watch today's segments anytime at thedenverchannel.com/Politics Unplugged. Thanks for watching, everybody, spending your part of your weekend with us. We'll see you back here next Sunday for another edition of Politics Unplugged.